This is Taking Stock on Bloomberg. The Paris Air Show, it begins on Sunday, and it's a critical market for the civilian and military aircraft builders. Will this year's order books be filled and full? We'll find out. Let's turn to our aerospace expert analyst, Alex Hamilton of Jesup and Lamont. Alex, good to have you with us. Always a smart look at what's going on in aerospace. What do you expect to hear out of Paris? How bad is it going to be?
Not much. I think today's announcement from Boeing kind of gave us a preview of what we're expecting. There's been a huge divide between consensus and, let's call it, sentiment out there as to what's going to happen with the order books and what's going to happen with backlogs. Today, Boeing didn't really lower guidance, but what they did is kind of lower their expectations for what their 20-year forecast is going to be. I think at Paris, usually it's an industry event where everyone's gathered, and a lot of the aerospace companies save up orders and try to announce them there. I think you're going to probably hear birds chirp there.
And so you think that, is there any possibility that people are going to walk away from that Paris show looking at their order books going, we're going to have to change our production schedules. We're going to actually have to stop making, stop making the number of planes that we said we were going to make?
That's certainly been a huge controversy going into the space. Last year, obviously, at the end of '08, as capitalism was ending and the whole world was coming to an end. These stocks got hit pretty hard. This year they've rallied a little over 20% as a sector, based on the hopes that we're going to have an industrial pickup, based on the hopes that airline traffic is going to pick up in the second half. But in the interim, what's been holding up Boeing and Boeing's benefited from this rally has been a backlog of about 7 years of production. Obviously, that's a debate, and potentially today's announcement is sort of a window to what's going to come down the pike.
Any financing people going to be at the Paris Air Show with closed checkbooks? I mean, because is there any money available to actually lease aircraft?
Actually, a lot of the rumblings that are kind of going around, let's put this in perspective. This year, orders are clearly going to be down. Right now, Boeing has net orders of around 0, and Airbus has net orders of around 11. Far cry from what we were last year and the year before. The rumblings right now are that there might be some U.S. domestic orders for aircraft, and ILFC, which is the big leasing company out of AIG, is potentially looking to shop around some orders. So,
and is this the UAL, the United Airlines order? Because aren't they going to make Airbus and Boeing
I think
dance for this?
The rumblings are Ryanair, the rumblings are UAL and ILFC.
How real is this, do you think?
Even if you get some orders, I mean, I think the consensus out there is 100. I can't remember what the orders were last year, somewhere in the neighborhood of 400. And the prior year, there were 500 announced at the air show. So it's going to be a far cry from where we were.
All right. So probably not a lot of champagne going on at that air show.
I don't think so.
Let me turn your attention now to a sector. In fact, this is really the catalyst for wanting to dig deeper into what's going on in defense. You say really there's a whole area of defense that kind of gets overlooked because we spend a lot of time looking at the very big defense systems. But there are a lot of businesses inside of defense that are really doing pretty well. Give us a little bit of highlight. We'll come back and do some more details.
Yeah, I mean, one thing, being on your show many times before, I've been pounding the table on cybersecurity and kind of technological trends that are going forward. A couple of weeks ago, President Obama laid out the plans for cybersecurity and put a spotlight on that.
And that's really going to help the stocks, you think?
Some of the stocks, which I think we'll get into momentarily.
Okay. All right. We're going to continue the conversation more with Alex Hamilton on some of those little-known defense stocks that have some big followers among professional investors. We're going to give you the outlook. This is Taking Stock on Bloomberg. A programming note, Taking Stock begins each weekday at 3 p.m. Eastern on WBBR, Bloomberg 1130 AM, Bloomberg.com, Sirius Channel 130 and XM Channel 129. This is Taking Stock on Bloomberg. Defense intelligence, computer surveillance. These are the deep reaches of defense. Let's continue our conversation with Alex Hamilton of Jesup and Lamont, expert in the world of aerospace and defense. Alex, let's turn our attention now. We'll use the various companies to kind of highlight the investment themes that you've been following. CACI, CACI International, cyber defense, plain frontline defense, whether it comes to, for government systems around. Give us an update as to what's going on at CACI.
Well, look, I think just to kind of set the record straight, my analytical style is I usually look to see where the trends are and where money's going. Follow the money, right? Trends here, the money is only going to grow. CACI, about 50% of their business is what we would call cyber, which is information assurance, data mining, and what have you. Really kind of runs through the core of their business, has a probably the best free cash flow yield in the space. This group, Defense IT, we talked in the prior block about commercial aerospace, up about 20% for the year. This space has not done that well because these are typically defensive names. As you know, the rally in this market has not been about defensive names. It's been about buying names that have their teeth kicked in. But that being said, we think the money's going to go here. You're going to go from several $100 million a year to several billion over the next few years. This is a pure play on cybersecurity.
Homeland Security, too, right?
Homeland Security. They basically provide IT services to the federal government, and the gist of what they do is cyber, and everybody in this space has announced plans, M&A plans, to buy more cyber names. So I think free cash flow only increases, and they're going to follow the money, like the stock a lot.
What about things like margins when you talk about these programs? I mean, the margins are usually pretty rich.
It's getting a little more competitive. CACI has the reason the stock right now is trading at a discount to the group, depending on how you look at it, their margins have compressed over the last few years, and that's because they had a period where a lot of contracts came up for recompete, and they had to compete on price. That said, I think one of the catalysts for this stock is I think the margin compression has stopped. So margins are either going to stabilize or increase.
And as a result, investors can get a little bit more comfortable, at least on the guidance that CACI is putting out.
That's right.
All right, let's turn our attention now. I want to continue with the theme. Let's talk about NCI. Yeah. Same kind of thesis there. And I just want to just to complete the thought on CACI. You got a buy price target is 57.
I think that's accurate,
for the shares right now.
Yes.
What kind of time frame are we talking about? 12 months?
It's usually a 12 to 18 month time frame is what our targets are. NCIT, this is a stock that we've liked a lot. Now remember, cybersecurity, there's other ways that you can play it. You can play names that I don't cover, computer sciences. You can play names like Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, General Dynamics.
We're talking about some pure plays.
But we're talking about pure plays. You get a little bit more, bang for your buck, and that's why I like these names. NCIT, probably one of the better managements out there. Margin expansion every year, and also about 50% of their book is what we would call cybersecurity. Pretty well positioned at the National Security Agency, which, the whole debate right now on the cyber czar is who's going to run cyber. Is it going to be the NSA? Is it going to be the Pentagon or the CIA? And that's been the debate, but clearly you want to be positioned to those two clients.
Well, maybe you just end up voting with both, right? I mean, you don't have to worry about whether it's going to be the CIA or the National Security Council or the Defense
with customers
like that,
with customers like that, we have to say nice things because I want to be on your show again.
All right, and we know that they're probably listening.
That's right.
Talk about who may be owning the stock, because that has always been an issue with NCI, right? I mean, is the founder controlling most of the stock?
That has always been an issue. A lot of times, walking into a portfolio manager's office, they're like, I don't like this. There's special voting shares. You have the CEO and the founder who owns the majority voting rights here. That being said, probably the last two acquisitions that occurred last year were companies that also had super voting shares. Most of these companies are entrepreneurial companies, someone who founded it, and they just want to kind of retain the power. So my point is the last two acquisitions, public acquisitions that were made in the space, were companies that also had super voting power, which means at the end of the day, for the right price, they're selling the stock.
Okay, and let me just ask you about backlog and this whole idea of what a backlog is and whether it's funded or not. Give a little detail on that.
Yeah, backlog, a lot of analysts try to look at these on a book-to-bill basis, seeing, obviously what revenue you booked during the, you booked and to see what kind of orders come in. For a lot of government contracts, it's a little trickier. They do what are called IDIQ contracts, indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity, which is almost a blank check. You can win work up to a particular amount. But what we do care about more is what's funded, which means the government has already cut the check.
What they've already written the check for.
That's
all right. I want to thank you very much, Alex Hamilton, coming and talking about CACI, CACI, as well as NCI and the outlook for Boeing and Airbus.